Okay, so I'm continuing on this generic argument converter implementation. So we're now in the getter and I've started to write some code in there. So by default, I think we're going to be creating this generic argument with a given name. And then I was thinking if we have a default value, then it means you may change the content or not. So depending on whether the Lua top is higher than your argument index. So we push this as if section, then we do the update that we need here, and finally we undo this. So the thing is, now we would get the type that we have at this location on the state, sorry, and depending on this type, you would proceed differently, I guess. So you would do, or would you do a switch? Yeah. Let's try that. So switch on this type. Guess you don't even need to store it then. You could just call that. And if you do that, it means you again need to do some intent change like this, and then you would do handle different cases that you will probably support. So right subline, you would have a case. First case would be if we have nil. So case nil like that. And there. So case nil, what you do would be to set this argument. No, that's arg name. So arg name, you would set that to q generic argument. I mean, that's the default, isn't it? Let me check. Generic argument. Please go there. So default would be to set everything to null anyway, and that's what I would do here. So we don't need to deal with that. So we just break. Then we have another case, which is next one will be number, I think. T number, okay. T number, what do you do if you have a T number? You need to get this number, right? Now the question is, where do you store that? Because you need storage for this this value. So what I have in mind is I should provide an enumeration for storage. What kind of data could I have to store an int value? Boolean value, then a string. That's a bit not so nice, not so clean, but let's see, where should I prepare this enumeration? I guess I could provide that in Luna directly. So in Luna, you could have a union. Union would work, right? Yeah, so let's add a simple union here. I guess we could call that, I don't know. Data holder, I don't know. No, that's not good. So you need support for an integer. Probably also double value. What else? A Boolean value. What else? For the case of a string, I think we can just store void pointer. And I think every other case could be placed here in void. We'll see. But this name, that's not so good. Lua, what is this? Not any better. I have such a problem with names. Let's say simple data union. Whoops, where am I? All right, so if we go back there, and then before we try that, we just need to do something like buff data with the argument name, and then you would do just nothing by default. Yeah, that's fair. So if we have a number, you need to get the value. So you would do one data in value. Is it returning an int? I'm not quite sure. It's a Lua integer. PTR diff. Okay. So let's rather say in the simple definition here, we're going to put Lua integer. And for to number, what are you returning with to number? Double, right? Come on. Lua number. What is Lua number then? Double. All right. So let's just use those names. Boolean, yeah, we can just keep bool. So the int value is going to be what we read Lua to integer at the index, which is going to be what we provide as secondary argument here. So we store this value, and then we have to update the data contained in our element here. So we would do this again. Would be cleaner if we start putting that on the second line. Still, yeah. Let's do this then. What do we use? We use tabulations. Okay, so let's stick with that. Let's put tab, then you write this, and we take this part. So you store the value first, and you need the arg name, and also the index at which you're retrieving the data. And once you have that, you need to update the values that you have for your generic argument. So should be a q generic argument with for the name, I guess you can just stick with null.ptr, and for the value you want to cast this to void, and that would be the address of this end value. Okay, and so what you need here is again the arg name. All right, and after that you would just do a break. Cool, so we have the first working case here. Then when we don't have an, oh, that's a case number. Shoo, no. We need to be a bit more generic, a bit more precise than that. Do we have is integer? No. How do I differentiate between? How do I differentiate between an integer and a floating point value? That's a very good question. And the thing is, if for instance I have a function expecting a floating point value and I provide that just a fixed integer value like 1.0, and then here we store that as an integer and we send a pointer to the integer data, is that going to work? I guess, yeah. So it means we don't really need the integer case, you just need the number. It's taking the same space anyway, so that should work even if you're actually passing integer values. Right? In fact, if you're passing a number, you can store that where you would store a pointer. And if it's a boolean, you can also store that where you would store a pointer. That sounds a bit tricky. Okay, let's try to keep it this way for now anyway. So where are we? We are on this number. We don't do to integer, we rather do to number directly. And we store that in the double value. And then you're going to convert this double value into a void. I mean the address for this to a void pointer. I think that's what you are expected to do here. Then you need to deal with the next case. So after this, we have the case of a boolean value. So to boolean, so you would store your boolean value here, and again you would convert the address you have for this boolean value to a void pointer, but boolean would be this equal 1, I guess. So that's a case for boolean. Then the next case would be for things that would be string. Yes. So for a string, what you do, that would be this pointer thing, ptr value to So this is in fact a bit weird, because your string could have an arbitrary length, so you don't want to just pass the no, you don't want to pass the string as is. So you may need to do two L string here. I'll name land. Really? Guess yes. We'll have so much choice. So it means at the beginning here we also need an int value, which would be this len equals 0. So you may retrieve no, wait. So you would maybe do something like that. Open this and close it here. And then that way you would declare your int value to be 0, and you also need to declare anyway constant char btr index name. All right, you don't really need the prefix because this is a local variable, so you just need you don't need the name then. All right, so once you have this, you need to create a string, in fact, but a real string, an env string. So in there you could have another value which would be yeah, fortunately I see no other choice. So you would then take your string value and what can we do? Actually, let me check that. I guess we could assign the value. So we could just do assign with this btr and then the length. And so you need the argument name only in this case. And when you have that, you update your queue_generic argument to take the address of the string. I find this really strange. But anyway, That should be it for the case of a string. What is the next case? User data and light user data. Let's deal with light user data first, because light user data is just going to be a pointer. So you would just set the PTR value to light. User data, I think we have this one, right? And it's not written like that. Oh, wait a second. Why don't we have this? Okay, actually, yeah, we just do user data. And that gives you a pointer, which should be a void pointer, I think. Yeah. Block address, otherwise it returns just pointer, yes, otherwise return null. So when you have this pointer, you just need to build the generic argument with it. It's already a void pointer, so there's no need to convert it back here. Next, we have the case where it's a full user data. If it is a full user data, well, that's a good question. What do you do? I would expect this to be a Lua user data. So I would expect to be able to get void on this. Would that work? That is a good question. So that would be Luna get void. Is that how we do it? Not quite. It's rather this thing. So we get a void pointer from there. Is there any chance that this would work? What is Luna T doing? the get function. Not there. I guess this is the one, yes. So we are in Luna. Are we? Come on. Yes. Luna. And then we have the get. What do you do? Is instance of. We might not have the appropriate instance here, so you casting this to void. Not sure that would work just like that. So currently I would actually expect this to fail, this get void. So we'll need to, well, figure out how to do it properly, but let's put it this way for now. And that we can assume that eventually this should return a void pointer correctly. And so we store that in the pointer value. And again, we set the new generic argument value. And the default case now, that would be default. And in this case, I think we should just, what is all this? Yeah, this is should go eventually. We should just display an error message again. So default case, you go there and you display that. Cannot get from supported data type, something like that, and you break, and then you pop and you close your thing, and now you have your appropriate generic argument in there. So you don't need to deal with all that, and you might have to do something with this. If the argument type is probably going to contain nothing, I think, because if you check it should just be just like that, naked argument. So that should not happen. This should not happen either. What about this move? I guess you can move the argument to the function call. Yeah, might work. So we could use that. Now, let's just get back to the binding that we have for the Q meta object. Where do we have this Q generic argument? We have this, that's going to change. Oh man, you have a lot of them. Let's check rather for invoke method. That's it. So you would create your that's interesting. You have a bool value, generic argument, and blah 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 blah. And there's no thing corresponding to the generic return argument here. Oh, cool. So we can actually bypass that. Cool. That's in the case where you want to discount the result, actually. That's the case where you want the result. But this one I'm not handling yet. But it means we could already go with that if it's working fine. So, let's put this to usage now and see what kind of content we can generate with. Before we go, maybe we should just push this. We've just added a simple data union structure. We just added the converter here and okay. Okie dokie. 2. That's not good. Where is this? That's in the type checker, I think. Yeah, yes. Argument type should be any of this, or I don't know, something else. Where do we have this defined? None. None will be good. So let's generate again. Okay, not the most compact and yeah, what was a bit better before. Is there a way I could reduce the size of this? This is internal to the if section every time, so we don't really need to have such a large name. And why do we have that? Stupid you. Okay, I can reduce this size. If we go there, the in type here, we could keep this like that. So we could just say that's T. So if we have a default value, then you're going to use that. So let's get back to what I was using before, I think. If we have a default value, then we check the type of the value that we have only if the top is at least at this level. If the top is not at this level and we have a default value, then we just set this to none. And then we're just going to, we don't want that. And then we're just going to check the value of this t thing. So that's t. If this is none, then it means it's not provided. And if it's not provided, then we're okay because we have a default value. So we should not return false. We should only return false when we have those three cases. And I can't make that any shorter. Yeah. If otherwise we don't have a default value, then we really need to get the type of that value. And then we do the check again. Can't be none this time. Okay. That should work. Is this change? No idea. So what do we have now? A bit shorter, that's better. Redundant. Return statement. Okay, you would like to return not this or something like that. Not what I want. Well, let's not do this. Oh my. You know what? I'm thinking I would need to handle that a bit more cleverly, because otherwise that's going to produce very large files. What the hell? Probably I'm forgetting to to remove an intent. So let's get back to this. For the writer, we have push indent. Yeah, I'm forgetting this one. That's probably still completely crazy. Okay, so we have a typo here. And also, if you just look at that, there is an error with those. Oh, you don't need. You need size T. Yes. So that would be size T. And anyway, we have an error with this construction here because we have this string field, which is non-trivial. I would expect something like that. So that's not good. But then we can move value 0. Has no effect. Well, we can remove move. Okay, fair enough. So in there you can just return the value itself. But what I'm thinking now is really I need to find a way to avoid all this duplication because we have a lot of them. So I need to put this code in some kind of generic functions. What would that be exactly? Let me try to think about it. So let's try to move all this into a dedicated function. And at the same time, what I'm thinking is concerning this part, actually, we don't really need the string part. Yeah, I can simplify that. If I really need to provide a string object that I cannot provide just as a const char pointer, then I definitely want to provide that in a more complex object that would go in the user data here. Or I could maybe just provide the row pointer to the string and a number to specify the length as an additional generic argument. So we don't need this special case, so we can simplify this structure a little bit, and hopefully that would allow the construction of it like this. Now, where do I put the function that I'm going to use for that? At the meta. Okay, let's try to take this. Not working anymore, right? So what you could do then is return this argument from a function call, but you need the data also to be returned. Yeah, maybe we could initialize it this way. So this is something we need to put in the binding context. Or rather compilation context. Yeah, because you don't need that for the binding generation. So yeah, only in the compilation context. So what is this going to be? It's going to be a function returning. I don't know what I should return. Yeah, I guess a Q generic argument. And the function should be get arg from a Lua state L with index, which is this one. We can handle the check of the top, and then we get the type, but we need this, the data order. So let's say so we could put that just here. That in the I guess we could put that in Qt. No, we don't want to put that in. Oh yeah, we don't want to put that in Qt, or rather in Luna. No, Qt. All right, and now about the implementation itself, we can probably just copy an existing bot and try to work with that to do all this. So we start with a value, which we could call arg. There's no such data here. And we get the top. In fact, if the top is less than that, then we can just return the argument already. Otherwise, we do the switch. Probably still need one. So data double value is to number 6 actually should be replaced by the current index we're interested in. And then the argument, I guess you can return then. In fact, you don't even need to prepare this default value. You could just return it here. Yeah, you can just return that. Otherwise, you would do data and you can probably just not repeat the name. Okay, so no, like that. If it's a boolean, then you store the bool value in the data. And again, you return. Come on. No need for the break here. And if it's a string, then you don't want to do that. You just store in the pointer what you get from a Lua. What was this get equal one? That's crazy. From to string. That would be PTR, and that's not working because yeah, you have to cast this to void. No need for this part. Then you may return again. And you would use actually no need for casting because you already have PTR value. And you can fix that, missing some in column, removing this and this in case we have a light user data. Why is this considered a duplicate? You're crazy. You get this and then you return. I mean, you return the same thing as here. And if it's a user data, that's where things get a bit more tricky. Because we need to get the Lua user data and get a pointer on the object itself somehow. PTR, but void here is probably not going to do the trick. So let's say you just return an empty thing here, but that should not happen because you would hit this error first. Why do I have that? Okay, I see. I mean, I do return in all cases. Why is there an error here? Oh. Alright, so we have a function like that. Let's just maybe consider a bit more carefully this case. So in Luna H, we have this Luna user data. No. I don't know what it is. I think, yeah, they have this instance of, is instance of, yes. But the one I should check. Yeah, Luna data. We have a Luna data. So we may retrieve a Luna data. We may check the magic. Okay, and what's next? What do we have in there? I think this is used as a base class. Okay, and then you have this container. Oh my. That's going to make my life pretty tricky because container doesn't have to be a pointer. Can be a smart pointer. So let's say that you have a Luna data. What do you have with it? You have an ID, a Luna ID. What can you do with this ID? Could you figure out what kind of class this is with just the ID? Do we have an ID mapping to the Luna threads? Not quite. So we're stuck. Because sending this Luna data itself, the pointer that we have for it, that's not an option either, because if we are interacting between different states, that will not work. What we need is really the container part. But we have no idea what this container really is. What is this Luna ID? What do we do with that? I'm thinking maybe we have something like that. Let me just check. Sources, Luna binding. No, that's not it. That could be in the threads. Core threads, for instance. So that's where we define all those Luna threads. For a class, you have all this, and ID will be this one. But at the end of this, nope. Oh. I should provide the reversed we will string would be we need something like that. So template struct should be a specialization. Luna type, and you would provide that the Luna ID, for instance this one, and you would be using class type equal in the Windows Manager. Bam, like that. So if we had something like that, then we could provide a list of all the bindings. Yeah, I need to think a bit more about this point, but this is going to be destroyed anyway, so oh no, come on, don't say this file. Discount changes, yes. We'll get back to this point. Now we need to complete that. So thing is, I would need to make this complete list available. I'm not sure where we go with that. Let me just write down this idea somewhere. Okay, now back to this one. We simplified this part, and we're now considering this extension get arg, which means if we can use this, then we should update the converter here. So what should this converter do when you have a getter invalid target string? What is that? It's not a string. Do you need target name? Not even. Do you consider as default? I guess you could. So basically, that's where you would introduce it. Equal if the top is bigger than the index, you would call the qt get arg get arg, so we just discount this one, and there's no push indent or anything in this case. So get arg from what? That would be L, then the index. In fact, index should be 2, and value 1 should be the name of the argument. And here you need 2. And you need access also to the data that you have prepared just above. So that's a case where there is a value, otherwise you would write the default value would be the third value provided, and so that would be devval. All right. And that's it. I mean, at least for the case where you have a default, and otherwise you would simply do read this value, and there is no default. And I think I forgot the semicolon here. And then you don't need all this code and all this, and that should be good enough. You return just the argument name. Only question remaining is do we need because we're already checking for, come on, checking for the top here. So yeah, probably we should not do this check. On the spot. Why break? Oh, come on. I guess this was the reason why it was complaining. Yes. Yeah, I guess we don't need more than that. So let's try the generation again. That's already a lot smaller. Oh, forgot the initialization. Oof. All right, so let's compile. One hour and almost 20 minutes, so we should probably stop here again. I'll just finish the compilation and we'll see. We'll stop the recording and do another one. Okay, let's pause for now. Alright, the compilation is just fine. So, added all this for a class group that we're probably never going to use because the functions that we will invoke this way are definitely going to be pretty simple most of the time. But yeah, it's good to have. Now we can maybe go back to the crypto view, but as I said, let's stop this recording and continue in another one. See you next time. Bye bye.